Okay, so here we are again. I did add a couple of things to my demonstration. So you guys, last time I just showed you guys a video that I pre-recorded. Now I am actually recording it live. So you guys are like my live guinea pigs right now. So anyway, if you kind of see here on the inside of this, and I'm going to turn off the cap, you can kind of see on the inside, I just added this little, I don't know what I want to call it, ejector, I guess is what I called it. It's a little pin that when you push forward, perhaps when the Mentos, not the Mentos, the icebreaker candy, when it moves up, you can push forward or something like that. Guys, don't judge my design, okay? I did this really quickly at the end of my last class. I just wanted to have multiple parts so that I can show you guys some assembly techniques. All right, so no judgments on my design, okay? I'm going to undo since I moved some things around. Okay, so remember, just kind of a reminder, this top file name here is my assembly. And I have underneath it 1, 2, 3, 4 different components. Okay, this is the file structure that Fusion uses. So you can see that they're kind of nested like a family tree. This is the parent, and these are the children. Something I wanted to show you because I made this mistake earlier accidentally. If, for instance, I have a component activated like this, and I forget to activate my assembly before I click New Component, watch what happens. If I click New Component while my other component is activated, and I make a name, I'll just say Test. And if I click OK, look at what happened. That new component is now nested underneath my ejector component. So if we're talking about a family tree, we've got our parent, we've got our children, and now this child just had a child. So that's like a sub-assembly. Now, in some situations, that's okay if I'm designing a sub-assembly, but in this situation, that's not okay. So what I did wrong was I forgot to activate my, my parent assembly before clicking New Component. So you have to be very careful. There is a way to get it out. I'm not going to show you that right now because it's just too many steps. So I'm just going to undo. So remember, as you're creating new components, always go back and activate the assembly. Then go up and click New Component. Okay? Another refresher, make sure that one part is grounded. I chose to ground my cylinder, right click, and I went to ground. Right now it's already grounded, so I don't want to unground it, but that's where you do it. Okay? So if I grab the cylinder with my left mouse, it won't move. However, if I grab anything else, like my cap, it moves. If I grab my ejector, it moves. So what you want to do is, if you accidentally move it, you want to undo. So how do we get these things to stay? Well, let me first start by showing you how to do a rigid connection. Okay? So rigid, if you go up to assemble, there's something called a rigid group. If you want something to stay together and never come apart, ever, it's never going to come apart, then you would use rigid. So if I select rigid, what I can do is I can pick any components. So for instance, let's say my cap, I'm going to pick it. And then my body, which is the cylinder, I pick it. When I click OK, Now, if I go to grab the cap, it doesn't move because it's now locked together with my cylinder. Now, notice how I now have a joints folder. If I open my joints folder, there is the rigid group I just created. And if I highlight it, you'll see with the kind of highlighted blue graphic representation, it's showing that these two components are locked together in space. Okay? Now, if I wanted to, I could lock everything together. I could highlight my ejector, I could highlight my cap, my cylinder, and everything, and I could come up here and say, make them a rigid group. Okay? And I could say yes. And now all of these are all a rigid group and nothing moves. But that's not what I want to do. This is supposed to move. There's things that are supposed to happen. This ejector pin is supposed to move in and out, and the cap is supposed to twist, and the mint is supposed to slide up. So I don't want them to be rigid. So if you ever want to get rid of a joint, just right-click on them under your joints folder and delete them. So I'm going to get rid of them, but I wanted to show you how to make a rigid joint because some of you might need to do that. What I want to do is I'm going to turn off my cap just so I don't see it because I want you guys to be able to see the little mint inside. So there's the mint. I'll toggle it on and off so you can see it. There it is. I want that mint to be able to slide up and down. Okay? So here's how I do it. I'm going to go to Assemble, and I'm going to select Joint. Okay? So this is an inventor when we used to do assemble, but now in Fusion we're going to be able to assemble things but allow them to move. So I'm going to click on Joint. Now when I click on Joint, I'm going to go right away to my Motion tab because I want it to be able to move. Okay? Now, since the cylinder is already grounded, I'm going to pick the type of motion that I want. This is a sliding motion. Since the mint is supposed to slide up, I'm going to pick slider. And if you don't know what these are, if you hover, it comes up with a little description. So slider, component moves along a single axis. That's what I want. So I'm going to pick slider. Now, I'm going to first pick the part that I want to move, which is, I'm going to go back to position. I'm going to pick this. Hang on. Position. Then I'm going to pick the second point is above here. Now, what you're going to notice is it gives you a little bit of a preview. I don't know if you saw that in the video and through Zoom, but after you pick it, let me see if I can get it to preview again. I don't know. Actually, I went back to motion. By default, it picked the Z-axis. I'm going to purposely say X-axis. That's wrong, but it's showing you the preview now. I'm going to just bend it a little bit. I'm going to go back to the Z-axis. Do you see how it's showing you the preview? So there you go. Yes, that is correct. That's what I want. I'm going to hit OK. So now, if I go in there and I grab this, I can move it up and down. And it's constrained to that axis. But the problem, I don't want it to move too far down and too far up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here under my joints folder and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Edit Joint Limits. Now what I can do is I can set the minimum and the maximum limits for that joint. So I'm going to look at it from the, I guess the side view, or I guess that they call it the top view. I'm going to turn the visibility of my cylinder off. maybe I won't turn it off. It'll just kind of, my minimum, if I set to like negative 0.2, it drops it down. It's kind of hard to see where it is. Maybe I'll just set it at 0, which was where it started. And I'm going to bring it up. If I put 1 inch, it goes there. I'm going to play with this number a little bit. 1.2 puts it there. 1.25. And that's where it'll come out. So this is your minimum and maximum movement for that joint. So if I hit OK, now when I grab that candy, it'll only move that far between those two limits, 0 and 1.25. Okay? Let's try that with this piece. I'm going to go back to joints. If this window comes up, this is very, very, very important. If this window comes up after you click on joint, always, always, always capture position. The reason why this window came up was because I made a movement to my model. I moved the piece of candy, and then I went to go create a joint. So Fusion is asking me, do I want to use the model's current position while I'm adding joints, or do I want to go back to the position it was originally designed in? Rule of thumb, always capture position. Okay? Always capture position. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to do another motion, probably another slider, since this is going to go in and out. So keep it on slider. The position is going to be, I'm going to select the object or the component that I want to move, a point at the center and perpendicular to the motion of movement, so the top, middle, and then the component that I want it to insert into, and then a point that's perpendicular to the axis. So that would be, this is going to be hard to pick because of the angle I'm at, but let's see if it lets me. No. Oh, see, I screwed up. That went the wrong way. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to do it again. Joint, capture, that to that. There we go. Now it goes in, comes out. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go and right-click on slider number 4, edit limits. I don't like where it is there, so I want to set my minimum and my maximum. Let's go minimum. I'm going to play with these numbers a little bit. Look at it from the back view. That actually looks pretty good right there. And this is mostly for visual reasons. So my maximum will then be 0. Maybe 0.1. There we go. Perfect. So now it moves that much. Just a little ejection. Boop. Pushes the candy out. And maybe I can add a little spring from my pen or something here. All right. Now the last part is this cap. If I take this cap and I want to put it on, I can do another joint, capture position. This time my motion is going to be revolute. I want that cap to rotate around. So now for this one, I'm going to pick that joint origin to that joint origin. And now you can see, kind of see that the cap rotates. So, all right. So there we go. Now I got a little cap, little pin that comes in, ejects it out. Now if I were to continue this design, maybe I would put a little spring on the inside with a little plate that pushes the candies up while they're being used. You know, add a little more detail and such, but that's that. So that's joints in Fusion, at least the slider and the revolute. I want you guys to get creative with your models. I want you guys to try to design something that is functional. is unique and is creative. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. You can always reference back. I will put this in YouTube so that you can come back and look at it if you need any more details.